Hello and welcome to today's content, which will be based on Rain and his EX release. So it will be a unit analysis on him and basically checking on how he fares in the meta. And without further ado, let's begin. For Rain's main job takeaways, he is the Knight of Grand Shield Flame type. So his base unit, he's going to get Fire. It does have a cast time. It does have a good amount of range, however, so it's not too bad. He has Power Break, which is going to be a very short range, low damage attacking ability. It is a magical slash damage, so it's not too bad, but his Fire would be more damage in general, but it does have a cast time in that difference between Fire and Power Break. Also the range. He has a self buff, which is Blazing Physique, which is going to increase his ice resistance, which is pretty nice to have. Nullifies Poison, Blind, Petrify, and Gradual Petrify for 3 turns. It's not too bad. Wish it gave a little bit more than just what those has, but it's not too bad. They are a bit more rarer in terms of the status elements, but it's not bad. It's at least there for at least AP generation. After that, we have Soul Prominence, one of his hardest hitting abilities that is single target. It is short range, however, but it does have 3 hits, so it's very nice to have. Keep in mind, while this is a slash ability, it does target your faith and your spirit, so it is not a physical damage ability. Also, it is activated, his upgraded version, which is, as you can see, the second one below it, is 205% for 3 hits, which is very, very strong. This is based off his passive upgrade. It is specifically not an EX upgrade. From here, we have Fire Augur. It has cast time, it does good damage, has a good amount of range. On his EX, it turns into Flaming Impact, where it gets rid of the cast time, which is very nice. Still does a good amount of damage, the same amount. And it also has a chance to slow. Because Rain in general, if you're using him for DPS in general, he has high amount of faith. If you use this against the mages, you have a pretty good chance of slowing them. This is very nice to have. His EX ability he's going to get is Amist Blaze. It is a slash magic ability. As you can see there, it's AoE, slash, and it can decrease move by 1 for 3 turns, which is very nice to have, especially for units that only have 3 move. This significantly reduces their mobility and what abilities they have available depending on the situation. His limit break is going to be Shining Nova. It's a 2-hit ability. It is a very strong Fire Imperil, and it does good damage for 2 hits, so it's nice for chaining as well as just dealing good damage. For the sub-job takeaways, for the Knight of Grand Shield, his sub-job is going to have Astral Guard and Undermine. Specifically for magic tanking, if you want him to have hate generation, he has to use this sub-job for Astral Guard. There is no outside usage of it. After that, he has the Red Mage sub-job, which is primarily the one used for DPS slash kind of like utility, because he also has a Suna, but I didn't put it here because there's a lot of stuff to put here. He has Cura and Fyra, both which have casting time. However, his longest range hit ability, which is single target, is going to be Jamming Thrust. It hits very hard because it's 200%, and can cancel ability activations and cast, so it's not bad to have. Outside of that, he does have his Knight sub-job, something I can't really recommend to use, specifically because you will have to disable almost everything on his main job if you want him to use his Knight sub-job abilities, because they are physical slash damage. And since his EX upgrade for Rain, his attack stat does not go up very high, his magic gets way higher, significantly higher. This means because the AI chooses to use damage, like higher damage over everything else, there is a very low chance that he actually uses any of his Knight abilities without heavy ability toggling. So I would not recommend this sub-job. I would recommend the Knight of Grand Shield sub-job as a magic tank, and then the Red Mage sub-job for DPS slash whatever you want him to do. For resistances and passives, for his resistances to damage types, his 0% to slash, 5% to pierce, -30 to strike, 15% to missile, and 25% to magic. As you can see here, his resistances overall are actually pretty good. Outside of strike, he will probably get one shot by strike users, but everything else he has a very good chance of surviving in terms of tanking as well. His base values, he has a 0% to AoE, 0% to single target. His level 120 with his master ability included, he has 2 defense and 23 spirit. This is extremely high for the spirit side. For his resistances to statuses, he is at 50% to slow, 50% to poison, and 10% to silence. Silence being not bad, especially because he does have a few abilities that rely on casting or chanting. For his master ability, since he is a bit an outdated character, he only has a spirit plus 10 for himself. He doesn't have the fire mono ability, unfortunately. His mobility is 3 move, 1 jump. He is an 80 cost unit. For his passives and what I would significantly recommend, it would be the Spirit Up, which his EX upgrade turns into Knight's Pride, which gives you 15 more Spirit, and he gains 15 AoE resistance. 15 AoE resistance is actually pretty huge considering how like well it can be used in terms of mitigation. And the second one I would highly recommend is going to be Intensifying Power. The reason why is that it not only increases soul prominence to deal like insane damage, he also gains a bit of magic damage for himself because he doesn't really have anything else for tanking outside of his magic tanking. With that being said, another one I can recommend if you don't want to use one of those is going to be the Mage's Protection, which is increasing his magic resistance by 15%, which is even higher than what it is. If you slap literally that passive on, his base magic attack resistance is going to be at 40%. He's already like getting to tiers for magic tanking that is very high. For niche and flex passives, especially for like PvE, like against the environment or enemies, or like live PvP, initial AP up can be used. It's not really too useful because he actually starts with a good amount of AP. Divine Protection is very niche. 15% to debuff resistances is very, very small. Maybe if it was 50% or 75% or even 100%, that'd be actually very good. But because it's only 15%, I really don't ever recommend using that. And lastly, it's going to be his HP up percent passive, which I can actually say is not too bad. However, he already has a large amount of HP. Increasing it even further does not help his quote-unquote effective HP values, because if he's getting hit by like a max damage strike attack, having a lot more HP is not really going to help. You need more mitigation. For his reaction abilities, he's going to have counter on his main job, which is sadly only one tile. It doesn't have element on the slash. He has magic reflex, which is insanely good. Even though he can tank magic already, he does have a few weaknesses to magic depending on the situation. And he has Sword Guard, which is able to counter all damage for a little bit of damage reduction, which is not bad. I would highly recommend using either Magic Reflex or Sword Guard specifically. For Rain's rating out of 5, at his release, like currently right now, before other units are going to be released, or up until I would argue, even with your Helena, I would say maybe around maybe Dwayne or Carmelo's. When they come out, he is still going to be a solid 4 out of 5. The reason why is that he's very capable of tanking magic damage very quite easily. Yuna, Sakura, Garvel, they will not do almost any damage to Rain. Like, he will just laugh at their damage pretty much. His physical tanking is definitely like something important to look at because he does take a lot more damage there, but he's literally made for magic tanking. With his EX, he gains very, very high amount of HP. He has a decent amount of magic stat. He does have a low agility, unfortunately, but he has a base of 2 defense and 23 spirit. Keep in mind, his 23 spirit with his passive can easily reach 38. It's pretty good. He's capable of dealing very good AoE and single target damage with his magic damage abilities. Keep in mind, this also includes his slash magic abilities. He's able to inflict fire res in peril, a slow, move down, and attack down on his abilities, all on his main job alone. This is not bad. It definitely doesn't have more quote-unquote meta stuff as in like healing power down or like a stun or stop, but the slow itself is very nice. Move down is niche, but it does work against certain units, and the fire res in peril is very nice to have in general if you just want to increase damage. He has access to Magic Barrier and Hate Generation on his sub-job. The Astral Guard is very, very good, especially if you're using him as a magic tank, as I said before. He has access to a little bit of heals and Jamming Thrust on his Red Mage sub-job. He also does have Asuna. I did not list it in the I did not list it on that slide, but it definitely is useful if he does use it. He doesn't have 100% hit ability, and he has no accuracy passes to work off of, and he's notorious for not having a good amount of accuracy. This is obviously quote-unquote fixed when he uses a vision card that came out for him, so it's not too bad, but without it, he definitely has issues hitting more evading units, such as like Runestern or like 2B, or like in the future even Tifa. Low agility means Rain is not. He's actually might be able to get lapped in terms of turn order if his agility is not raised properly. So you have to keep that in mind. Make sure he has enough agility. His resistances overall are actually very heavily offset to tanking magic, which is very nice to have. He will need some mitigation to attack, to defend against other attack types in general, especially when strike is at negative 30%. If anyone just brings a single unit that has strike, he will literally be kind of worried. Obviously, if it's someone like Luel, who has magic damage strike attacks, it won't hit him as hard because of his super high spirit, but you get what I mean. Physical damage attackers will deal good damage to him. He's extremely susceptible to strike damage, and he can be one-shot easily if he does not have the right amount of mitigation. Someone like Raldor can literally LB Rain and hit him for max damage, literally, because the negative 30 strike is just too hard. It's just too much negative. In terms of his longevity and future, I thought about putting him at 4 out of 5, but because of a few units, such as like that have not been upgraded to their EX yet, such as like Glaciella with her sub-job Monk job, I had to put him at a 3.5 because there are also another character, cough cough, Charlotte, who can do what he is doing, but also flex into other resistances better. But yeah, without further ado, I'll talk about what he is. His physical resistances overall, they don't actually have too many big negatives, except for the strike. Obviously, the strike is going to be his main weakness, but this also means that he is very weak to attack type imperils like Kotetsu, Claws of the Young Lion, stuff like that will definitely be very effective against rain. He is significantly effective against almost all magic damage dealers. It's very hard to like attack rain with a magic attacker. You have a very high chance of struggling immensely in terms of like taking him down if you are a magic damage dealer against rain. Like I said earlier, his base spirit of 23 at level 120 and he's maxed is very nice to have. With his passive, he gets at 38. 38 alone is already insanely high, so just keep that in mind when you're trying to attack him with a magic attack user. Even if you have magic attack resistance penetration, you have to rip through his spirit as well. And if you don't combine the two, he's not going to be taking much damage. Because of his magic stat, he can be considered as a semi-sub DPS unit because of his magic stat. He unfortunately, however, does not have any penetration or imperils outside of his fire element imperil, so he needs someone to slash imperil for him or magic attack imperil for him, and he needs someone to spirit imperil for him as well. Because those are all kind of wishy-washy situations, it's very hard for him to get like his damage out at all times. It is very easy to mitigate against him, especially if you have like a plat helm. If you have a plat helm, it literally almost hard locks up. Not hard lock up, but it's a very good mitigation item against rain. As I said earlier, since he has no 100% hit abilities, he's going to struggle immensely when he's fighting against evasion units, and he has no fallback or backup options out of this. He literally is going to struggle against evasion units. Even with the vision card that came out, even with that additional accuracy against an actual like top tier evasion unit, he will struggle. Also, he's lacking any attack modifiers, and his mono fire master ability he doesn't have, and only his weapon has slash. What this means is that his magic attack abilities are all going to be hurting for damage, and because he only has a little bit of slash on his weapon, that means only his slash type abilities will gain a little bit of damage. This is kind of the situation with units that don't have the mono element abilities. They will be a little bit like below on terms of damage in general. He is weak to stop and disable. This is kind of big. That means Rain is easily CC'd. CC meaning crowd controlled, due to his build being based usually on high faith, because he can already attack magic damage really well, and you want him to deal damage as like a sub damage dealer. You want his faith high. This means status elements in general can definitely affect Rain, so you have to be wary about it. But this is also a counter because he is able to inflict what I said earlier, his slow and his move down and stuff. Slow being very, very strong if it does land, and it's AoE. So yeah, basically try to avoid getting status elemented on terrain, but he can deal the slow himself. As I said earlier, why I specifically put him at 3.5 is because his kit is mostly outdated, unfortunately. He doesn't have any other damage mitigations outside of only magic. His literal counterpart is going to be Charlotte for magic tanking, and Charlotte does it significantly better than Rain because she not only has a regen, she also has a protect and shell for herself, as well as raising her defense and spirit even higher. Rain, unfortunately, in terms of physical damage tanking, he has no options. Literally, he has to have it from outside mitigation, so he's gonna have trouble in terms of like tanking physical damage that is good against him, such as like Tidus. Tidus will do insanely well against Rain, so Rain will have to watch for that. For the TMR chase rating, I gave Rain's Clothes specifically a 3.5 out of 5. The reason why is that a lot of people will use this TMR on the average, even in live PvP. It is nice to have because it's 25 Spirit for 3 turns for his allies. It is an armor TMR slot, however. It does give 14 Spirit, which is higher than the usual 8 or 10 for defensive stats. 496 HP is not that high, but it's not bad. But the ability itself is nice to have for Spirit if you're about to take magic damage. But keep in mind that raising Spirit for 3 turns is not bad. However, there are certain better TMRs in terms of live PvP, such as Barriers. Barriers being insanely strong, and or a Protect or Shell TMR being much more useful. So for that reason, I gave his TMR chasing a 3.5 out of 5. So stuff that can work well with Rain. As we said earlier, his damage is not like high enough, and he has no penetration for like his damage as well as imperils outside of his element. King Mont will definitely be one of the best matches with him because King Mont can lower their slash resistance, and basically Rain can deal very high damage after that because not only do they chain together, lowering that slash is going to be good for his slash magic abilities. Outside of that, Raldor is very strong. When Raldor's EX is out, it's going to be even nice to have. Because Rain can be a magic tank for Raldor, and Raldor's only real weakness is going to be magic in general, Rain is going to be a good match with him as well. Winter Mashiri is very strong once she gets her EX, and because she can tank magic as well with Rain at the same time, they can be a good match in terms of being fire bruisers against magic damage dealers. And maybe some people don't know, but Japan got basically, I'll say, like Queen Glaciella or like Princess Glaciella for their voter. We don't know if we get her as a unit in global. I'll say that. It is not confirmed. There's no reason to question it. However, because Japan did get her, it's always a small chance that we might be able to get her. And maybe because global gets UR Zazan, we can maybe give them UR Zazan as well as we getting Queen/Princess Glaciella. We do not know. However, if we do get her, she'll be an insanely good match with Rain because of their kit being able to like synergize with each other. She can lower their magic attack resistance and Spirit Imperil for him, and Rain can basically capitalize off that very well. And he's a tank frontline, so basically the Fire Dream Team can be here if Gumi makes it happen. I'm not going to say, oh, you should go ask them or be like, oh, does anyone know if it'll happen? We do not know. It's impossible to know until it actually happens, but it is up in the air. For that specifically, the vision card that I will say is almost mandatory to have for Rain right now if he wants to be relevant for EX is going to be the Encounter of Heroes. Not only does it cover up to 15% of his strike resistance, so he's only negative 15%, which can easily be covered by an Esper. This is very good for him. It also increases his magic significantly, gives him the accuracy he needs because he has low accuracy, as well as giving him 20% slash resistance for party. This is insanely good for mono fire teams, especially for Rain. Like, this is, if there was a vision card that was made for Rain, this is it. You are wanting to use this if you have Rain, period. There's no other better vision card specifically for him outside of the amount of benefits you get. You have to use this vision card. For his setup, I'll say because he's slow, I specifically put Tidus Boots here because it not only gives defense, but it also gives him agility. He needs agility to keep up. Like, it's really not a joke. He has 57 agility when everyone else currently in the meta has 60, 65, 67. We know it gets to around like 68 with like Cloud and Tifa and stuff like that, but yeah, he's almost a 10 agility difference compared to the other units that are coming out. He really needs that agility. Outside of that, maybe you want him to be a little bit slower, but you want to have higher damage. The Peacetime Brooch will definitely be useful on him because it will increase his magic even further. And like Rain, even as a magic tank, he is not a slouch in terms of his magic stat. It's like not bad. You can definitely capitalize on it. For his armor abilities that are not TMRs, I specifically put Platrobe because it has high defense. He definitely needs physical damage mitigation. Even if you have physical damage mitigation, like magic damage still won't be able to do enough damage to Rain. Like even if you're a magic caster, Rain is still able to capitalize on his magic defenses. Like he'll still be able to handle it. Even UR Helena will have a hard time killing Rain efficiently. Outside of that, there's a new close that came out in JP. We'll be getting it eventually, and by the time it comes out, Rain can use it. It's going to be a slash resistance robe as well as it gives you defense. So it's not like the Fides Lacerna, which is slash resistance robe and gives you spirit. This one is going to be specifically slash resistance with defense, which will be insanely good for Rain for covering both not only slash as well as his defense issue that he has. So yeah, this setup in general will work very well with Rain. And we arrived to the end of the video. As always, if you like my unit analysis on Rain, please leave a like and subscribe. And until the next video, peace.